Hi, this is Greg. This is another in a series of videos covering the customization options in Scantheus under the Admin Expander. Admin Expander is over here along the right side. We're going to open it up, and this video will cover specifically the image view options. If there's another category here that you're looking for, it will be in another video, but we're just going to be covering image view. Image view pertains to images that are within this window here whenever I click on a scanned image, as opposed to a live view image, which is showing the document on the background before you scan. So it's whatever kind of actions that you're taking on a scanned image post-scanning. So first off, this preserve original image when cropping, when you do a crop, I've got it set up for cropping here for my mouse action. Whenever you do a crop, it replaces the original image with your cropped image. Go down here and undo that. But if you want to keep that original image, you just turn that on. And when you do a crop, it will insert the cropped image after the original image. So this could be handy if there's you want to kind of split up a scanned image. Maybe you accidentally got the left and right pages and you want to split them off. It's a handy way of doing that. Next, this require confirmation of drawn rectangle action. So a drawn rectangle is one of the things you do in order to crop. So by default, if I do a crop, it just immediately takes whatever rectangle I've drawn. I'm going to do an undo here, but what happens if I accidentally release the mouse too soon and now I have to go back and redo that crop? Well, this lets you adjust the rectangle before it accepts it. It adds an extra step because you have to do the confirmation, but it lets you adjust whatever you're doing and then it will perform that action. So now let's do a crop and it will come up and have this accept or cancel, and it has multiple rectangles because if you're in multi-frame mode you can draw multiple rectangles. So it won't immediately do the crop until you say accept. So that gives me a chance to adjust where the rectangle is, move it around, adjust the size, doing the mouse wheel there, and then I can do accept and it will do the crop. You may have seen similar buttons whenever you're in live view and you define the live view area. I'm doing a right click here and saying define live view area. So in this case, it's not asking for confirmation. It's just saying, hey, draw the rectangle, or if you don't want to change your live view area, go ahead and cancel it so I can draw the rectangle, but it immediately takes it whenever I release it. So this does not affect the live view defined live view area. It only affects when you're cropping a scanned image. The store crop area rectangle data into TIFF metadata is a kind of wonky, obscure feature I added in for a particular project we had in-house. It stores whatever dimensions and position of the rectangle into the TIFF image itself, and then I had an external image go through the images and crop them out and generate the cropped images later. That's outside the scope of this video, but that's a feature that's in there. It may or not stay in there because of its very limited use. Now this crop clone position refers to when you want to make copies of rectangles that you've drawn already and you want to clone them, and it is only applicable to when you are wanting to define multiple frames. So I'm going to create multi-frame mode here. I'm going to draw a rectangle around this first box here. Now I can go ahead and draw another one, or if I want, based on this crop clone position, Control A clones a prior rectangle that you drew. So this position is now center, so it's going to draw the cloned rectangle around a center point that I defined for where the cursor is. So I'm going to do a Control A here. So this allows me to go down and draw multiple boxes. Of course, once you draw it, if you need to adjust it just a little bit there, you can say position top left. So I'm going to point to the top left of a rectangle area here and do a Control A, and it draws it there. Or top right. So a lot of these options were from a project that we had in-house doing a yearbook. So you can see how this would be handy drawing rectangles around groups of photos of students. Which brings me to this crop area grid. We'll turn that on. Let me cancel all rectangles. So instead of drawing individual boxes, what you can do is draw one big rectangle, and it'll break it into grid automatically. Now you can define the attributes of the grid by these settings here. So you can see that my default grid is kind of small. This 512 by 512 is too small for the size of these color chart rectangles. So I'm going to adjust the width first, get it right. So I got the width, and I'm only looking at this top left rectangle to get the to know what the dimensions of the patch is. So now I've got the size of the patch. Now I need to adjust the spacing. So let's do some horizontal spacing here. So I'm using my mouse wheel to adjust these values. You can enter the values if you'd like. So now it's adjusting the space. And let's do vertical space. Looks like I could add a little bit more width to it because these guys were a little too small there. So 16 by 624 is a nice size. You can, after you defined that, you can actually add some padding to it. So, you want a little margin around the images. And you can also do a skew here if your images on the page are a little angled. So this is a horizontal skew that is left to right you can adjust, and a vertical skew top to bottom. And then once you have it the way you like it, you accept all rectangles. It puts them all out there. So I can combine this with preserve original image, and I can have the page, the original page, and then insert all the cropped images afterwards. And of course, just like everything else, you can do an undo of it. And it remembers what you set up. So now I'm going to turn on this preserve original image. I'm going to go up here and set up my crop. And since it's already set up well, I can still adjust individual images if I want. I've got it preserve original image, so now it'll keep that image, and then when I do accept, it'll insert all the cropped images after the original. So let's undo that. So remember, undo, you can go all the way back to all activity that you've done and undo it. Now finally, this manual deskew degrees is how many degrees each time you do a manual deskew, how much it applies. I'm going to go here, manual deskew. You also have some hotkeys for that, Alt L and Alt right. So I'm going to deskew left. So it skewed it 2 degrees to the left. Now I'm going to do an Alt-L. I'm doing Alt-L, so it's skewing right. I can do Alt-R, and it skews the other way. Now, notice every time it skews it, it adds a little black space in there, so you might have to do crop afterwards, after you do the deskew, if it's added too much margin padding around it. This magnified glass size affects when you have the mouse set up as a magnifying glass. So by default, you have a 50%, but you can make it larger or smaller. Depends on your personal preference. And that's it for image view options under the admin expander.